Hey, I'm Charlie Munford, and this is Talking Octopus. This site is dedicated to the search for the mechanism of epistolution. Epistolution is a concept I developed 4 years ago as I recovered from a deep personal crisis. My startup business had crashed. Within 6 months, was sued in federal court for false allegations. My wife divorced me. I had to move out of my house. I was diagnosed with cancer, and my dog died. So I had a terrible year. These disasters caused a deep personal crisis for me, crisis of meaning. I looked at myself. I was in my mid 30s. I was obese. I had high blood pressure, had high cholesterol. I thought I was doing everything right, but the results were so terribly wrong. It sounds naive, but I began to wonder about the instructions for life. What causes us to be what we become? What makes me like I am and you like you are? Biologists have assumed, because of natural selection, that the purpose of life was survival and reproduction, and the genetic code contains instructions for achieving that goal. If that was the case, then there really would be no deeper meaning or purpose to life other than an accumulation of random accidents that shaped our DNA. This explanation gives us no reason to believe that another random accident, or maybe a mistake we might make, could extinguish us as a species. But by asking this naive question about instructions, I discovered that there's another possibility. The genes in our DNA sequence actually don't carry instructions at all. They're just a list of proteins that can be made. They're like tools in a toolbox. The instructions actually come from the environment around the individual cells and organisms. It's that environment that interprets what tools to use. That's what tells us what to be and what to become. There's 6 major reasons why this is the right way to see it. First, we've discovered that all cells in our bodies contain the same DNA, even though there are 200 or more cell types and they perform many different functions. Second, we have discovered that transgenerational epigenetic inheritance is widespread in nature. This would be impossible if the organizational logic were in the genome. Third, we've discovered that the microbiome is a self-organizing functional system, like an organ. It forms out of foreign cells with foreign DNA, and yet it is as unique for each individual as a fingerprint. Fourth, we have discovered that the fossil record shows not steady change based on random mutation, but punctuated equilibrium. Fifth, we now know that organisms that get less likely to die as they get older, such as oak trees, have roughly the same number of genes as organisms that age rapidly, like octopuses, which senesce in as little as 1 year. This disproves the gene-centered antagonistic pleiotropy explanation for lifespans. Sixth, we have discovered that cells in the same tissue express a given gene at wildly different rates, with as much as 1,000-fold difference between 2 adjacent cells. So gene expression is stochastic at a small scale, and yet function is stable at a large scale. All 6 of these results, as well as some other results, would be impossible if the genetic sequence were the instructions for life. Instead, an organism turns out to be something that can be instructed by its surroundings. How this mechanism works is still a complete mystery. That's what I call epistolution. It means organisms are conducting a blind search for knowledge during their lifetimes by changing their cellular mechanisms based on their surroundings. This simple idea is such a tremendous breakthrough that the implications are very hard to grasp. This is a complete redefinition of intelligence. Every artificial intelligence program that's ever been built requires a reward function. It requires the programmers to establish the goals of the program. But epistolution shows that organisms develop their own goals. They have no explicit instructions. They develop them based on the context that they're in. The goal of life turns out to be knowledge, and that's how we become alive in the first place. That's how natural selection can have started. We have a problem with AI as it has been conceived of now. It's proven to be impossible to mathematically articulate our moral values. If we establish one definition of fairness in an AI, we violate another definition of fairness. It's impossible to articulate in mathematical terms what we mean by good and evil. And our moral values as a species are changing quickly. The only way to prevent AI from amplifying destructive bias is to learn what the mechanism is that cells are using to interpret their environmental conditions in order to express their DNA. This is the biggest challenge that we've ever faced as a species, and it requires a philosophical reframing of the relationship between ourselves and our world. We are not machines that execute a specific code. We actually are open to the world. We're outward facing. All living beings are trying to find better solutions to give meaning to their surroundings. This realization has been a source of deep optimism for me. It means that when we discover this mechanism, we will be able to master biology, which means preventing senescence, preventing disease, and increasing our own capacity for creativity, morality, and compassion. Talking Octopus is embarking on an ambitious program to find the mechanism for epistolution and create real AI. These will be moral machines that will equalize humanity rather than driving us apart. They will create better values instead of amplifying the biases that we already possess. I appreciate your attention, and I hope to hear something from you about your thoughts on AI and your goals for humanity. Thank you.